Swiftonians, the 13th zodiac sign, how's it going? I am doing a bonus video for you guys today, which I promised before. If you haven't seen my other 2025 prediction video for Taylor Swift, check that out. We are going to go over the Karma music video and its uh, association with and or references to the tarot deck. So I am going to get started. We're going to run through this. And by the way, you get the bonus because you blew all the other zodiac signs out of the water. The other 12 combined didn't have as many views as you did. So although I will do as many bonus videos as you can, I should probably give them a chance every once in a while. Go figure. All right. So let's get started here. All right, so I know there was a lot of Easter eggs in this video for her upcoming re-recordings and the infamous purple slash blue glittery gooey whatever stuff that comes out in her videos. So we're just gonna run through this, and I'm gonna pick out the things that I see and tell me if I missed anything when it comes to tarot. And I know there's been some backlash about witchcraft and stuff like that. I don't give a fuck. Like, uh, I am obviously a big fan of the tarot deck. I've been studying it from an art history perspective for a long time. There is a ton of history, a lot of stuff to learn from it. So, boo, poof, magic, whatever you want to call it. It's awesome. All right, let's keep going.
Karma is that girl,
All right, I'm going to stop right there because I know we're getting ready to get into the justice scene, but there was a transition. If you look, let me see if I can pull this back. A little hard when I've got my screen share thing on. All right, let's not do that. But there was a transition between the round record going into the sun. So I am going to just pull out one sort of edge case here that we've got this nice bright orb at the very beginning of the movie to represent the sun. And then as we move into this, very clearly the scales of justice. So this is the major for Libra. And obviously with her situation with battles with legal battles and the music industry, obviously a clear message on that one. But this is a very, very nice representation of the justice card with the scales. If you're a Libra, you know what I'm talking about. That's another air sign. I'm a Gemini. We both have sort of duality, and I'm going to get into her sign later on in the video as well. And now clearly a devil scene. So devil is the major for Capricorn. She is not on the cusp quite, but she is closer to Capricorn being a Sagittarius. And so, but that said, obviously she's talking about the wrongdoing that's gone on with her in her life. But in any case, I just want to say that card is often sort of vilified in the deck, but it does typically either represent a Capricorn or just some kind of addiction. So, you know, she in my book is well, as we're going to see, keeping her side of the street clean. So it's a clear paradox between these two scenes to me, basically comparing, as we'll see coming up, her sort of squeaky clean reputation, right? Compared to the way that a lot of people act around her. Now, this one obviously has much more of a Wizard of Oz feel. I don't get anything really from the tarot deck again, but I think creatively this is her creating that contrast between the good side of the force and the bad side of the force, if you will. That she really hasn't done anything egregiously wrong, yet she gets portrayed that way. And I love this book. Here, analogy with one of those sort of pop-up origami types of things, whatever you call those, where we've got a real clear definition between the two sides of the coin. The bright, airy, just living my life with the castle in the background, colorful, and the dark kind of assholes who were over here giving her the finger with all the sharpness and again, I could make an analogy to the death card with these Grim Reaper figures. So I'm going to throw that in there as well. Death is the major for Scorpio. So I'm just putting that in for context, but that card usually refers to could be an actual death, but a death of a process or something in your life. So in this case, she's just making, even with the tree that's half dead and half alive, that, you know, her life is fine with bunnies and flowers. In terms of the way she conducts herself. And then there's all this sort of debaucherous, backstabbing behavior on the other side of the book, very much like a fairy tale. But a lot of those came along with very strong parable lessons back in the day. So I love this whole scene here. More purple, glittery stuff, which we know came also along in, you know, Anti-Hero and some other videos like that. Again, with the transition, obviously I do some video editing, so I love this. Now she's inside glass, and this happens twice in the video, this being an hourglass, and that purpley stuff is now in the form of sand. And we see this gold costume in a couple places when she's enclosed in glass later in the video in the light bulb. So for me, that's just sort of giving contrast again in color to the purple of the sand. Probably a costuming decision, but the hourglass itself and her being trapped inside glass is very much sort of a continuing theme of her saying, like, I'm here and I can see everything you guys are doing around me, and it's bright and I'm clean and I'm taking a shower, whatever that was supposed to mean. But she's still trapped inside this sort of glass house, if you will. That's the analogy I get. And I also love this transition that we just saw where the glass is turning on the side. Now, I want to mention for the tarot deck, there are 4 cards, I believe, that have an infinity symbol on them, one of them being the world, which is not associated with a specific sign per se. But those, the magician strength, and I'm forgetting another one was a minor one, but I'll throw that here. And we're talking about an infinity symbol similar to an hourglass. We're talking about time being fluid, and that there's 2 sides to each process, not just time. But I just like that how, and it could have been a video editing decision again with the transition, with this transition here turning into her glasses and how she sees the world through glass. That's just really clever when I really kind of dig into the details. And I could be completely off base in terms of her creative process, but I feel like I kind of I've always been called a creative person, so I'm tracking with this. All right, right there. So I don't have anything to say tarot-wise about the cat, but obviously we all know that was probably just to match up with the lyrics in the song of how much she loves her Sebastians and her kitties. So this transition here again, that they had the cat in a round sort of yin yang looking um, flat from a bird's eye view, and transitions again into this orb. So we've got a lot of that same 2 shapes, the infinity symbols and the orbs. And in this case, here with the Ice Spice solo, this is, well, I'll let it play through a little bit and get back to that. Right. I'm just going to pause there because this scene of a beautiful woman in a shell is very reminiscent of the Botticelli work of The Birth of Venus, in a very famous piece in art history. So this again pointing back to mythology. A lot of tarot cards are rooted in this, and if I had to pick one, I would say the Empress, because that is the major that is associated with Venus. All right. And these, I believe, are just meant to be pearls to go along with the shell. I don't think there's really any other super symbolism for those kinds of orbs.
The pearl in her hand. The pearl in her hand.
Goddess of beauty scene that is portraying that pure maternal, feminine, fertile energy. Okay.
promise you'll never endeavor with none lesser. Ever, ever. I'll be dragging that wagon. Karma is a beauty. Winning that pageant.
All right, this transition here, it just feels like it lifts up into the sky. So now we're up into, the space, into the universe. And they're getting ready to throw their lassos. I've got some interesting things to say about these planets coming up here. Right here, this is very reminiscent to me, showing the rings of Saturn spinning the same way that record was in the beginning. I'm just talking about the way this video was put together. For me, quite genius to this continuity through the theme with the that's the only thing about the beginning scene that I was thinking about, that it was like the rings of Saturn spinning, which we were going to see later in the video. I don't have any particular references to lassos. It's a little bit more of a cowboy thing, which would date, a little further out than the tarot, which is technically dated back to the 1500s. So, of course, I'm sure they had rope, but I'm not really thinking of any specific. If there's something else, I'm going to go back through and double check myself. I'll throw it in here. But let me know if I'm missing something there. Now here, I remember seeing a lot of comments when this video came out of people talking about her throwing the lasso around the moon. I don't know. It's just, it keeps nagging at me. For me, this is Mercury because of that big, what's called a crater impact that you can see visible right there. I know there's plenty of those on the moon, but that one is so big, it just reminds me of the one on Mercury. And also for that reason, because the zodiac signs are tied in with planets, there isn't really one that's associated with the moon. There is plenty of reference to the moon in the tarot.
Roping a planet, roping a planet, roping a planet.
But the interesting part is Ice Spice is dressed in more of gold hue with the Saturn, and she's a Capricorn, and Saturn is the ruling planet for Capricorn. So I feel very strongly that was done on purpose. Her lasso is more gold, Taylor's is more silver. It's again sort of a dichotomy between the two energies, I guess, one being more fiery and warm, and then with her as more of a creative, intuitive moon kind of energy. So I'm not doubting that this could have been meant to be the moon, but maybe the video editors I don't know. You tell me what you think. If there's anybody who's better at planetary identification than I am. But then the other thing that was kind of bugging at me is Mercury is the ruling planet for, and again, the moon isn't for any, for both Virgo and Gemini. Now, Gemini is Taylor's opposite sign, and that mercurial energy tends to be, obviously, when Mercury goes into retrograde, it affects energy, right? It's like the planet that affects energy and electricity, and the moon affects tides. So whichever one it is, I feel like it was chosen intentionally by her to represent her highly creative and intelligence in just in the realm of energy and things connecting, and how she says her imagination works. All right, so here she's back inside glass, and this time it's a light bulb. So this one, now it makes sense that it's more warm because it's a light bulb, but this gives a very sort of vintage feeling of the Edison bulb, if you know what I mean, where we're talking about it in incandescent light versus LEDs or something like that, which tend to be more cool. And this costume I was really interested in too, because now she's back in the gold from the Justice scene. So there's a lot of this silver and gold thing going back and forth. But also it reminded me of one of the original tarot decks, which I have a replica of, so I'll throw this up here too. I believe it's the Empress. It's also it's called Egyptians because France and North Africa had a very close association in terms of territories and products coming in and farming and things like that back when the tarot deck was created. So it does look like an Egyptian woman, and there's a little bit of like mystery around whether the tarot deck was actually created in France or Egypt. Those are the two main suspects. Although it's believed to have originated in China in terms of the standard playing deck that we know about, but that's another video. So anyway, I believe that this outfit was chosen a little bit intentionally to look more like a Cleopatra type of thing. It just gave me an Egyptian vibe. I'm really curious about this number, other than it's her kind of replicating herself through, like, if you have two mirrors and you're seeing yourself, just with this glass, why she chose to have the 5 bulbs in this scene. If you know why, let me know. Nothing else in particular to say about that.
Karma is the thunder, rattling your ground. Karma's on your scent like a bounty hunter.
So I've been a little bit fascinated about this one because I lived in the mountains of North Carolina, close to the Tennessee border, for a long time, and I know that she obviously has roots in Nashville, but that whole East Tennessee side, this mountain scene looks very much like that to me because they're not super tall. There are some here over on the right side that might be more like around the border of North Carolina and Tennessee is where the highest peaks are. So this reminds me very much like that, where it's getting more into I guess a flattened out mountain scene as opposed to a really peaky one, if that makes sense. So I'm not really sure what exactly she was trying to convey here, other than it transitions the video from what had been a lot of very harsh, kind of cold environments with the glass and space and things like that back into a warmer looking scene, um, with the water. And obviously, the elements of the earth are very important elements in the tarot as well. So it might just be an intentional sort of keep putting in all of the different sort of seasons and elements.
And karma's gonna track you down, step by step from town to town. Sweet like justice, karma is a queen.
Now this one reminded me very much of the Four of Cups because there are a few, actually, I believe it's the Ace of Wands. My brain is overloaded right now. That have a cloud holding something, but the Four of Cups is the main one for me that comes to mind, where there's a man sitting under, or a boy sitting under a tree, and there's a cup being handed to him, and the meaning of that card is usually that you have something around you that you're not seeing that's right there, and it could be just mental, like I can't quite put my finger on it, or there's actually something in your physical realm that's close and you're not grasping it. Okay, so just this reminded me of that with manifesting Ice Spice in the clouds this way. It's almost like she's kind of she's really grounded and almost hiding in the earth. And meanwhile, there's this beautiful goddess in the clouds that she's not paying attention to, almost like when you're a kid and you're looking up at the clouds kind of thing.
Karma takes all my friends to the summit. Facts. Karma is the guy on the screen, coming straight home to me.
Okay, this for me, out of all of this video, was the most blatant. Let me get back to the this scene. The most blatant reference to the tarot. We had the devil and the justice and all that. Those are a lot more, I guess, just broad kind of things that we're used to identifying with. But two people rowing in a gondola going across some water, not so much. You might think of Venice, but this card clearly depicts that there is, other than the angle in this card, you're going away from something with and there's 3 people too, but there's the gondolier who is standing up and paddling, and then a small child and a woman bundled up, and they even have ice with the scarf over her head to kind of depict that, and rowing off to a better place. I think maybe that's why the boat is pink. It's very feminine. It's very much like, okay, well, we're moving along from whatever that was, being stuck in a mountain. And all right, so let's keep going with that. And again, this costuming is very exotic to me. I mean, if not Egyptian, a little bit, Indian is spicy. It's a spicy scene. All right, I get a little goosebumps for that for some reason, because now it's like we're going back up into the clouds and into a different space. It's just nice. It feels very lifty and like you're flying. I just love that kind of feeling. All right, Look-a-Lock. Now, I know this was a big Easter egg for Midnights, and then there was some discussion about the color of her fingernail polish and that kind of thing. I don't have a lot to say about clocks in the tarot, again, because in the 1500s they were a little bit like a sundial, maybe. It does kind of look like that, actually. And there's not really a whole lot of reference to timepieces or anything like that in the original tarot decks. But I did want to say, just I don't know, putting it in a coffee cup like this, it just feels like Taylor, and so I don't think I have anything specific to say about the tarot here. And I kind of just slowed this down and went through frame by frame, like maybe there's some clue here, but it's too blurry. So I don't really think there's a whole lot else other than this being a little Easter egg here at the end.
Karma's gonna hold you down.
Okay. So what do you think? Let me know if there's any other references that are in there that you think I missed, or tarot or not, whatever, let me know. And also, just another note on Gemini being the opposite sign of Sagittarius and Mercurial. That's just I just can't help but wonder if she wasn't resonating with that a little bit more, or because Capricorn and Sagittarius are right next to each other, if maybe she didn't want to use Saturn, or Jupiter, I believe, is the ruling planet for her sign, but chose that other more silvery moon or Mercury for a visual. That scene is really fascinating to me. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments, please. I would love to do another one of these about another one of her videos. On whatever subject matter, but obviously I know more about tarot than a lot of other things. But I do know a few things about some other things. So, all right. Thanks for joining me. And once again, thank you for being the 13th most awesome zodiac sign. Lotto Terranator 5000. I need one ball, please, for the Swiftonians who are here today. It's gonna be for last week of January for Swiftonians. I need a bonus ball. This is just a little tour of the Lotto Terranator 5000. There's 78 tarot balls. Every week we do all 12 signs, and the 13th sign is you, Swiftonian. So do check out the other videos for your sign and the Swifty labeled videos on this channel. Here it comes. You can tell it's a pentacle if it's not a major. Ace of Pentacles! Alright guys, we were just talking about that one, the one with the cloud. Being an ace, it's almost always a lucky card. Could be the beginning of a cycle, could be a gift, could be money coming in. Hey, stay tuned for more. Thanks again for joining me, guys. Bye.